All right. Good evening, 晚上好. So tonight we're in chapter 2 of First Thessalonians. 今天晚上我们在第二章，就是帖撒罗尼迦前书第二章， and we're in verses 1 through 4. 1到第4节. And tonight's title is Wasting Your Opportunities. Wasting Your Opportunities. 今天晚上的主题是浪费你的机会，浪费你的机会. And so this is specifically geared towards Christians, but there's actually a lot that we can apply to in our daily lives. What's up? 就是为了我们的基督徒电视也有很多内容，也是对我们听的时候。Maybe try disconnecting and reconnecting. I'm not sure. What's not good?
Maybe I turn off the TV and restart.
Maybe it's Try disconnecting and reconnecting. I don't know. I'm not sure Anyways. And so tonight's title is Wasting Your Opportunity. 今天晚上的主题是浪费你的机会. And so as Christians, we have our daily lives and everything that we need to do. 我们基督徒，我们还有我们天天的生活. And there's lots of we need to do. 然后很多事情我们要做. And so right now, me and I, every day we're studying, and I'm also doing work stuff. 然后我们我和Ola，我们每天在学习，还有我在做工作的事. And so, but despite what we have to do and what we don't have to do, because all of us have responsibilities, we still have our responsibilities to Lord. 我们不管我们每天要做什么，我们还需要对我们的主，我们的神，还有做他的工作，他的释放. And so that is sometimes we need reminders. 然后有的时候我们需要别人提醒我们. And that's exactly what we're looking at tonight, because Paul and two other brothers should be a huge encouragement to all of us. 然后保罗还有另外一个弟兄们，他们应该提醒我们，而且鼓励我们. And that is not to waste our opportunities in every single in our daily lives. 然后就是不要浪费我们每天的自己的机会. And as Christians, God gives us opportunities. 然后我们基督徒神平常给我们很多机会. And some of those opportunities are only around for a short period of time. 然後有時候我們的機會比較短的時間. And sometimes God only gives it to us once, and then after that it's gone, and we won't be able to get that again. 然後有時候是一個機會可能是來一次. 如果我們沒有用它的話，或者浪費了，那我們可能一輩子沒有再遇到它. And so as Christians, that's something we always want to be thinking about. 然後基督徒我們老是要想起來這個問題. And that is, there's something that you see, it's an opportunity that you have before you. 然後如果你對面發現有一個特別好的機會, and then I would, and all of us Christians in the Bible encourage us, if it's good and of the Lord, to utilize it, don't put it off. 然後如果我們發現了這個機會可能是從神來的, 我們也需要很快做完它，不要浪費它，因為我們不知道以後有沒有這樣一樣的機會. And so let's look at 1 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 1 through 4. 帖撒罗尼迦前書第二章1到4節. For yourselves, brethren, know our entrance unto you, that it was not in vain. 弟兄們，你們自己人曉得我們進到你們那裡，並不是突然的. But even after that we had suffered before, and were shamefully entreated, as ye know, at Philippi, we were bold in our God to speak unto the gospel of God with much contention. 我們同前在腓立比被号羞辱，這是你們知道的，然而還是靠我們的神放開膽量，在大的征戰中把神的福音傳給你們. But our extortion was not of deceit, nor of uncleanness, nor of guile. 我們的勸勉不是出於錯誤，不是出於誤會，也不是拐詐. But as we were allowed of God to be put in trust with the gospel, even so we speak not as pleasing men, but God which trieth our hearts. Then 圣既然让中了我们，把福音托付我们，我们就这样讲，不是要讨人喜欢，乃是要讨那察验我们心的神的喜欢。So what had just happened was that Paul, along with two other people, went to a new city to preach the gospel, and then from there they started a church. 所以现在的情况是怎么样的？保罗还有两个别的弟兄，他们一起出去另外一个城市，然后他们在哪里开始讲道，然后呢，在哪里有很多人开始信靠耶稣，成为基督徒，然后他们开始教会。But first off, this wasn't a short period of time. 第一个不是很短的时间 ，it was over the course of I believe a few years. 他们花了几年，不是很短的时间。And also they had a lot of difficulties. 然后他们遇到很多问题。However, they did not allow the time spent, or they did not allow the difficulties to change them or to quit. 但是他们没有让他们的时间或者遇到很多问题让他们放弃了，他们继续坚持。And that is something that was extremely important because no matter what happened, especially Paul, he never gave up. 然后保罗不管他遇到什么问题，遇到什么事坏事，他从来没有放弃。And as Christians, this is something we should always strive for. And as Christians, we should always try to build up our character like this. 然后我们基督徒，我们要老是要来鼓励或者提高自己的，我可以说不放弃的水平。That is that I mean to say like we should always try to increase our resilience. 我们老是上尽力我们的 how to say resilience? Resilience 就是你 resilience
持续力，
因为持续力Yeah, it means to continue on. Yeah, 就是 like 要坚持。And so that is extremely important because as Christians, all of us, especially, when we become a Christian, God never ever promises in the Bible that after you become a Christian, your life is going to be perfect. Your life is going to be without issues. 你知道吗？神从来没有说你成为基督徒以后，你的生活是更顺利、更方便、更好的。As a matter of fact, Christians sometimes when we become Christians, we actually sometimes will meet even more problems. 我们成为基督徒，有的时候我们遇到更多的问题。However, we need to remember that everything we do is not for ourselves, but for the Lord. 但是我们要提醒自己，我们做所有的事不是为了自己，是为了神，是为了神的荣耀。And so tonight's title is wasting your opportunity. 所以今天晚上的主题是什么？浪费你的机会。And if you're not a Christian, a lot of stuff here will also apply to your life. 然后如果你不是基督徒，这里的主题也有很多会帮助你的生活的。Sure. So 5 ways Christians waste their opportunity. So 基督徒浪费机会的5种的方式。Paul said in 1 Corinthians 15:58, 保罗在哥林多前书15章58节说 Therefore, my brethren, be ye steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, for as much as ye know that your labor is not in vain in the Lord. 所以我亲爱的弟兄们，你们勿要整固，不可以摇动，常常竭力，多做注重，因为知道你们的劳苦在主里面不是突然的。And so as I remember, this is the 3rd year we're doing this church. 这是第3年我们做这个教会。And from day 1 until now, we have encountered many difficulties. 从第一天到现在，我们遇到好多问题。And so that is, there's been so many times when I've had people tell me to my face that, you should really just cut back, or you should really, maybe reconsider not doing it this way. 然后啊，很多人不是很多人，但是有几个人跟我面对面说，你应该放弃了，你应该放弃，或者你应该改变，因为你现在做了太多事，就是关于教会。And so and those kind of things, whenever I hear things like that, it actually for me wants me to push on more. 然后如果我听别人跟我这样的讲，我会在我的心里会感觉我必须更努力。And so that is, as Christians, we should always be having that kind of mindset. 然后我们基督徒，我们要每一次有这样的想法，每一天我们的思维应该是这样子。However, that does not mean that I've never had the thought cross my mind that I should just quit. 但是你知道吗？我也应该说我有的时候会想起来，就是如果我放弃了以后，我的生活可能是更方便、更顺利、更不那么辛苦的生活。And so, but sometimes I thought about that, like if I just quit, how much easier would my life be? However, that is not what we see in Scripture. 但是在圣经里面，我们从来没有遇到这样的基督徒，有时候也看到这样的基督徒，但是耶稣的使徒，他12个使徒，他们从来没有放弃。But Jesus' apostles, his 12 apostles, never turned away, even at the point of death. And 11 of them were put to death, for sure, possibly all 12, because of what they were doing. 然后呢，耶稣的12个使徒，11个被别人杀死了，因为他们不方便，不改变他们的目标。And as Christians, we should do this. And there are, if you look in this world, and if you just go on YouTube, you will see a lot of, we call them success videos. 然后如果你在看 YouTube, 你会看到很多我们说 success videos, 就是 充满的 or 功利的视频。And these videos are meant to encourage you. 然后就是为了鼓励你。And a lot of them have to do with very successful people in this world. 然后很多是关于在这个世界有很多钱的人的故事。And you'll hear about people, if a person is very successful, most of the time they didn't get there by quitting. 如果你会找到一个人，他的生活现在或者他的公司比较发展，或者他的生活现在是比较厉害的。These people, they didn't get there by quitting. 他们没有找到这样的，而没有成为这样的人，是因为他们放弃了很多。No, they press through. And as Christians, that is something that all of us Christians, we want to have that kind of mindset. 然后我们基督徒，因为他们通过他们我可以说脱离他们的困难，他们没有放弃，所以以后他们得到他们的目标，或者他们的目标成为工厂的，工厂 to finish 怎么说 their goal was completed because they didn't give up. 他们的目标
可以成就。
How to say complete means to finish. 工厂完成完成了他们的目标，是因为他们没有放弃。And that was something that Paul did, and Paul faced extreme opposition. 然后保罗他的生活也是这样子，他从来没有放弃，不管他遇到什么事，不管谁恨他，不管他警察来攻击他或者谁，他从来没有放弃。And that is very important because that is exactly what they're doing here. 然后他们就是挺重要的，因为他们在这里做什么 ？They started a church. 他们开始教会。So let's look at 5 ways Christians waste their opportunity. 所以基督徒浪费机会的5种的方式。Number 1， 第一个 ，not seizing the moment in an open door， 没有抓住时机，一扇打开的门。Verse 1， 第一节 ，For you yourselves, brethren, know our entrance in unto that it was not in vain. 弟兄们，你们自己人晓得。我们进到你们那里，并不是突然的。So here's the thing. Paul right now went with 2 other guys. 所以保罗在这里跟2个弟兄一起去另外一个城市。And sometimes, so Paul was a church planter. He wasn't a pastor. 所以保罗他是开教会的人，就是他的工作，他不是牧师。And sometimes when he would actually leave one city and go to another city, sometimes the Christians there did not want him to go. There's actually one time when the Christian says, hey, if you go there, you're going to be arrested. They tell him like something bad's going to happen, and they try to get him to stop. And they start crying, and he's like, please don't do this to me. You're breaking my heart. 然后有一次，保罗准备离开一个城市去另外一个城市，很多基督徒like 警告他们说不要去哪里，因为特别的危险。而且你到那的时候，你也不知道他们怎么回复你，而且回复你给他们传福音，他们肯定在哪里有敌人来攻击你。However, he did not quit. 但是他说了，你们别对我这样的说，因为你让我感觉非常担心我自己，也担心你们。But he still went. 但是他还去。And here he says, for you yourselves, brethren, know that our entrance in unto you was not in vain. So he's saying here, he goes, at first when we set out, when we came here, some people thought we were crazy. But after all the preaching, all works being done, it wasn't a waste. 但是他说什么？他这里第一节说什么？弟兄们，你们自己人晓得我们的见到你们哪里，并不是突然的。所以他的意思是什么？他离开一个城市去另外一个城市，跟两个弟兄开始工作，在哪里开始工作？他说了，本来很多人觉得我们是疯了，我们觉得我们有问题，但是你看我们真的努力释放耶稣，这么努力为他工作，以后看到我们有这么多好的结果。It says it wasn't waste， 他们没有浪费他们的机会。And Paul went with Silvanus or Silas in the book of Acts and Timotheus, which is Timothy. 所以保罗跟两个弟兄一起去哪里？一个是希拉，第二个是 Timothy. And Timothy was actually a lot younger than Paul. 然后 Timothy 他跟保罗如果他是40岁，那 Timothy 可能是20岁。And yet they went there knowing that they had enemies in the other city. 但是他们去另外一个城市，知道他们在哪里有敌人 and that there would be people that would be totally against what they're doing. 然后他们知道在哪里肯定有一些人特别的恨他们在做什么。And so, but that did not stop Paul or these three brothers and what their mission to do. 但是这个问题没有影响他们的目标。And as Christians, every single one of us, you might be saying, well, I'm not an apostle. I'm not a pastor. I'm just a normal Christian. 但是你也可能说，但是利姆师，我不是使徒，我也不是门徒，我也不是牧师，所以这个跟我有什么事？ The point is that what us Christians can learn from this is that every one of us Christians, whether we're at work, it's in life, or it's something that we want to do to serve the Lord, don't give up. And it doesn't matter. You might think, but you don't know what kind of issues, you don't know what kind of problems I've gone through. Don't give up. Because it doesn't matter. Well, first off, I can guarantee you that us Christians, most of us will never ever get it nowhere near as bad as Paul. 然后，但是你可能对我说，利姆师，你知道吗？我不是那么厉害的基督徒，我就是普通的基督徒。但是我们在这里可以好好学习什么？我们可以学习不要放弃，不要放弃。因为你可能说，但是你不知道我的困难是什么，你也不知道我已经遇到了那么多的困难，那么多的坏事，所以我要放弃，或者我觉得这不是太适合我，我要放弃。但是我告诉你，知道吗？我们的生活跟保罗不一样的，保罗遇到更多的困难，更多的坏事，但是他从来没有改变。And as Christians, we need to remember that there are some things in our lives, when God opens the door for your lives, it might only be for a few months. It might only be for like 6 months. And then after that, if it's shut, you might never get that door again. 你知道吗？有时候神给你开一个门，给你新的机会，然后这个机会可能是比较短的时间，6个月、1年，我不知道。但是以后这个门关了，可能你一辈子从来没有再开。And sometimes we waste opportunities. 有时候我们浪费机会 because we think, well, I'll just put it off tomorrow. 因为我们感觉我可以开始，明天开始，明年开始，下个月开始。 And then we find out that later on the opportunities are gone. 然后以后我们发现了这个机会已经过去了，没办法。And Paul and when he was instructing the churches, because after Paul had started many churches, and then after he started the churches, he would leave. He'd stay there for a while, and then he'd leave and go to another city to start another one. And when he'd do that, he'd write letters to those churches instructing them what they should do. 然后保罗开一个教会，他可能留在这个城市里，大概三年，帮助他们，教他们很多东西。然后他离开去另外一个城市，开了新的教会。但是你知道吗？他已经开了教会，他会写很多信给他们很多教训，很多教材，很多内容，告诉他们要做什么。And one of the things that Paul always instructed new Christians to do was this. 然后保罗他常常告诉新的信徒的人是什么 ？He often said this. 他常常说这句话 ：Colossians 4:3， 各罗西书第4章3节。With all praying also for us, that is him and the people with him, that God would open unto us a door of utterance to speak the mystery of Christ, for which I am also in bond. So it means at this point he was arrested. He's still saying pray for us, that God would give us new opportunities to serve, new opportunities maybe to preach gospels, new opportunities to help other churches, whatever it was. And Paul was always instructing other people to pray for him. 他说什么？他说也要为我们祷告，就是保罗还有他的弟兄们，求神给我们开传道的门，能演讲基督的奥秘。所以，但是他现在在哪里 ？Where is he right now? He's in jail. 他在 is it 监狱里。And he's saying, despite this, 不管这个问题 he's saying, continue to pray for us that God will give us new opportunities. 他说，不管这件事。继续求神给我们新的机会，新的门。And as Christians, we should never allow something, especially fear, to control us. To say, well, but if I pray this, what if God actually gives it to me? I'm afraid. 然后我们基督徒也不能对自己说，但是如果我这样的祷告，那以后神这个给我开这个门，那我很害怕进入这个门。Before I started back in America, before I started my bachelor's and my master's degree, I was in America before I came here. There was, I told you guys before that I prayed 2 years for China every day. 我知道我已经跟你们说过，我在美国还没读本科还有硕士的时候，我开始为中国2年，每天为中国祷告。And during this time, when I first started praying, my prayer request was, Lord, send other people from the church to go to China to help plant churches and to maybe become pastors in China, etc. To help them out, because a lot of churches in China need help. 然后我的祷告的请求是，主让别人从我们的教会或者另外一个教会去中国帮助哪里的基督徒。And my thought was always， 然后我的想法老是什么 ？My thought was always what? My thought was always, Lord, send someone, not me, to go there. 我的想法老师是什么？主要让别人去中国，但是不是我让别人去中国帮助他们。Because when I was in America, I think that I often thought like my life is really good in America. 因为我在美国，我常常想起来我的生活在哪里特别舒服。I had my own car, and my parents' house was super big. And I got my first car when I was in high school. 我在高中的时候，我买了我第一车，火车。第一部车，我第一部车，我在高中买的。And I bought it with my own money. And to me, when I bought that, I was very, very happy. Because I was like, this is something that I worked for with my own hands, and I bought it with my own money. It wasn't something my parents gave me. 然后那时候我在高中买我第一部车的时候，我特别的开心，因为我觉得这是我自己赚的钱，我自己很努力工作，然后我用自己钱买这个车，不是我父母给我。So I was very happy. 所以我特别的开心。But when I started praying for China,And I started praying like a bunch of different things for China. 然后我开始为中国祷告，我为了很多中国的很多祷告，为中国祷告，有很多不同的请求。我开始这样的时候 ，about maybe 6 months later， 可能6个月后 ，I started thinking in prayer, but I didn't want to pray because I was afraid. But I would often when I was in prayer, I think about this. 然后我在祷告的时候，我就想起来一个 祷告清楚的事，但是我害怕，我不想为他祷告。And that was that I was like, maybe I should start praying that God would prepare me to go to China one day. And I was thinking, no, I don't want to because I just got a car and all this other stuff. 然后我在祷告的时候，我就想起来，我应该为我自己祷告，让上帝准备我的生活去另外一个国家。但是那时候我害怕，我不想为这个东西祷告，因为我觉得我刚刚买车，然后我现在的生活真的很舒服。And you guys have seen some like you guys have seen my parents' house, right? I think你们在网上，我知道有几个人已经看过我父母的房子 ，like it's so much nicer than this house. 对比这个房子好看很舒服很多。And so when I was there, it's like this is good. 然后 and my thought was like I could just pray for other people to go. 然后我觉得那里生活特别舒服，我可以为别人去，但是我不去。But then I started, after about a month of thinking this, every single time I really was bothered by why am I refusing to pray? And one of the things was I was just afraid. I didn't want to go because I'm like, who do I know in China? No one. You know, I go there, what am I going to do? 然后我在大高时候，我特别害怕，因为我觉得我在中国认识谁？没有人。Because all my whole family is in America. 因为我的家人都在美国。But then I started feeling convicted. 但是我在祷告，我没有为这个祷告清楚祷告。但是我在祷告的时候，我就继续想起来，为什么我不为我自己祷告？为什么我老是为别人祷告？就要让这个人让Ola去中国，不要我不要去。And then I was like, okay, so I started praying. 然后我开始为这个东西祷告。And one of the first things I remember praying was that, okay, Lord, because I had this massive map of China about this big on my wall. In America, and then what I do is I take a different city every day and I pray for that. 然后我在美国，我的中国的地图是这么大，非常大。然后我贴在我的墙上，然后每天我选择一个城市为他祷告。And one of the things I'd always pray is that God would start a new church in this city. 然后一个祷告清楚是，就要让这个城市以后可以like 经历或者开始新的教会。And I remember one of the things I started praying for myself was, Lord, just take all this stuff away from me. There's too much. I have like video games, all my stuff, and my car and everything like that. Because I started realizing that if one day the Lord actually wanted me to go to China, I can't take all this stuff with me. So Lord, take it from me because this stuff it's like pulling my heart away from what I think I should be doing. 然后我的祷告清楚是主要把我的车，我所有的 like 游戏什么的，我的like 玩具拿走，因为我觉得这个东西在控制我。然后如果因为还有这么多东西，我也没办法带它去中国。And so what I started doing was I'd pray, and then afterwards I started just selling it. 然后以后我祷告，然后以后就开始卖掉它们。And then when most of my stuff was sold, that was around the time that I went to the university. 然后我的东西差不多都卖完了。我那时候就开始读书，大学读书。And then when I graduated, I came to China, 然后毕业就过来中国。But it wasn't easy, 但是不容易。And that was over the course of 2 years, 就是2年。And that God continued to change my heart. And here, Paul is saying, pray that God will open new opportunities. 然后保罗在这里说，祷告求神给我们新的机会，开新的门。And when Paul got there, it wasn't one day. You know, Paul was trained under the very best. He spent most of his years training. 然后你知道保罗不是他突然说 OK， 那我要离开这个城市。他花了差不多一辈子，被最好的老师在教他，准备他的生活，然后他成为基督徒就完全改变。And some of us Christians, that's what we need to be doing. We need to be praying the same thing. 然后我们基督徒都应该是一样的祷告，主啊。我的祷告清楚是给我们新的机会，给我新的机会，开新的门。And if you have an idea of what that might be, 然后如果你有自己的想法，应该这个机会是什么 ？Then pray that God would remove fear from your life. If there's fear controlling you, or if there's something you think that the Lord's leading you to do, start praying that direction for the Lord to help you. 然后如果你觉得，但是如果上帝给我这个机会，或者开这新的门，我害怕，我应该做什么？那你开始也为自己祷告，让上帝把这个害怕的事情带走。 And so that we don't waste our time, so that we don't waste our opportunity, so that we don't waste our lives. 因为我们不想浪费我们的机会，不想浪费我们的生活，不想浪费我们的特别是新的机会。And so, number one, not seizing the moment, an open door. 没有抓住时机，一扇打开的门。And so I know there are people that have, like people have told me, they share testimonies where they have realized that there was something they knew they were supposed to do and they didn't do it, and then later on that opportunity is gone, they don't get it again. 然后几次我还没遇到这样的问题，但是别的弟兄们也跟我分享这个问题，他们说了，你知道吗？我之前知道什么去另外一个教会帮助他们释放他们，然后他们说这个机会的时间可能几个月，然后这个月已经过去之后没有办法去哪里帮助他们，所以他们的意思是这个机会，因为他们没有进入这个机会，以后这个机会是没了，他们觉得是浪费的。And as Christians, a lot of us will experience things like this throughout our lives. 然后我们基督徒，其实我们都差不多会遇到在我们生活可能遇到这样的问题。And that is what? That is, we realize that there's something we should have did, we didn't do it, and then afterwards we don't have an opportunity to do it later on. 然后我们会在我们的生活可能，其实我觉得我们都会遇到，我们发现了在你对面有新的机会，但是你没有把它，你没有打开它，你没有进入它，然后以后这个时间过去了，没办法再打开，没办法再进入。And that was something that Paul realized. 然后保罗他发现了这个问题 and Paul never allowed these opportunities. If he realized that there was something he needed to do, he did it. And if he needed help, he had other Christians praying for him. 然后保罗他也发现了这个问题，他知道时间也不是那么长，时间也不是那么多，机会也不是那么多，而且他知道以后可能没有这个机会，所以有一个方法，他说让很多基督徒为他祷告，帮助他。Number two, not pressing on when it gets difficult. 第二个 So the second way we waste opportunities. 第二个我们这么浪费我们的机会是 not pressing on when it gets difficult. 在困难的时候没有继续。And a lot of people are like this. 很多人是这样子。A lot of people, when something gets very, very difficult, they want to quit. 很多人他们遇到特别的困难的问题，他们都放弃了。A lot of people quit. 很多人会放弃。Why? Because when we quit, there is an immediate gratification. 我们放弃之后，我们突然感觉非常好。We think, oh, all the pressure's gone. 我们觉得所有的压力离开我。And it usually isn't until later on that regret sets in. 然后可能是以后你会后悔。But at that moment, you might be thinking, this is great. 但是那时候你可能感觉非常好，你可能感觉这么多压力离开我。但是以后可能明年或者以后你会很后悔。Because you think, why did I quit? 然后你觉得为什么我放弃了 Verse 2 第二节 But even after that we had suffered before and were shamefully entreated, as you know in Philippi. 我们从前在腓立比的迫害受辱，这是你们知道的。And so they met a lot of suffering. 所以他们遇到好多坏事 but they didn't give up. 但是他们从来没有放弃 And sometimes Paul had people telling them, you should not do this. And trying to, thinking that they're helping him, but actually their advice was not good. 但是有一些人对保罗说，你们应该不做这样的，你也不能去哪里。他们觉得他们的经历是好的，但是是不好的。For example, Paul met many difficulties. We're going to look at some of them right now. 保罗遇到好多困难的事。One of them happened in Acts chapter 16. It starts at verse 16, goes down through verse 23. 有一个坏事在使徒行传16章 16到23节 it says, And it came to pass, as we went to prayer, a certain damsel possessed with the spirit of divination met us, which brought her master much gain by soothsaying. So here you have a woman who is possessed by an evil spirit, and the spirit's given her power. And there's a boss that controls this woman, and he uses this girl to make money. 所以这个故事是什么？后来我们往那祷告的地方去，有一个使女迎着名来，她被乌鬼所附，用法术叫她的主人们大得的财力。所以这个女孩，她有一个老板，然后这个老板用她是为了赚钱。So he would have this girl do things, and she would say things, and people would come and they'd give money to listen. 然后他用这个女孩是为了，给别人的 ，That's really loud. 给别人一个语言，然后他们会给他钱。For example, like I remember when I was in Shenyang, we went up to a mountain, and on the mountain there were some Chinese men, and you pay them some money, and they tell you like your future. 然后我在沈阳的时候，我们爬山，我们遇到 like 2个或者3个中国人，他们如果你给他们钱的话，他们会告诉你以后会遇到什么事。然后我们就是语言差不多的意思，就是占卜。And that's basically what this girl is doing. 然后这个女孩是一样的差不多，她的工作一样的差不多。And this guy would make money off her. 然后有一个老板会赚了很多钱。And so what happens later on is that for a few days, this girl starts to follow Paul and some of the other people. 然后呢，这个女孩跟着保罗还有他的弟兄们，他的门徒。And 然后过去了几天里。And after like 3 or 4 days, Paul gets very upset. And so this girl just starts saying, these guys, you need to listen to them because they're preaching about God. What they're saying is true. 然后这个女孩她说，这个弟兄们，你们都要听他们的讲道，他们的话，因为他们都说是真理的。他们告诉我们怎么去天堂。But Paul after a while got very frustrated. 然后以后保罗有点放弃，然后他有点生气。And so he casts out the demon out of this girl. 然后他把她赶鬼。And then that causes the boss to get very upset because he loses his way to make money. 然后这个让这个老板非常生气，因为他觉得你在来攻击我的公司吗？我现在没有办法赚钱。And so he has Paul arrested. 所以他让很多警察过来，抓保罗还有他的弟兄们去监狱里。And then it says in verse 23, 然后23节说 And when they had many stripes upon them, means that they were beaten, they cast them into prison, charging the jailer to keep them safely. 打了许多棍，就是他们打他，便将他们杀在井里，制服进入严禁看守。So what happened? They went there, they started preaching the gospel, what they were supposed to do, and it cost them what? It caused them to be beaten up and in prison. 所以他们去这个城市开始讲道，但是以后遇到什么问题？很多人不同意，很多人不想听，来打他们，来攻击他们，以后他们在监狱里。But that didn't stop Paul. 但是你知道吗？保罗不让这个坏事影响目标。But he didn't allow this to interfere with the plan, what he was supposed to do. 因为这个目标是从耶稣来的。So this is just one of many hardships that Paul went through. But you know what? He did not give up. He did not allow his difficulties to turn him away from serving the Lord Jesus, and neither should you. 这既是使徒保罗所经历的许多的困难之一，但你知道吗？他没有放弃，他也不允许他的困难使他不服侍主耶稣。你也不应该这样做。So number 2, not pressing on when it gets difficult. 在困难的时候没有继续。And Paul, despite what he ran into, never gave up. 但是保罗还有所有的使徒们，耶稣所有的使徒们，他们遇到什么困难，从来没有放弃。But then why do we, so many Christians, why do we often give up? Or why do some of us Are we afraid to serve Lord？ 但是为什么很多现在的基督徒，就是普通的基督徒，我们都害怕，我们让如果控制我们，就是如果控制我们。What I mean by that? Why do so many Christians allow or what if？ 不是什么如果，英文我们说 what if， 就是 what if this happens? What if that happens? And then we allow these what ifs to hold us back, to cause us to fear. What if I do go to a new church? What if I do go to a new city to serve Christ? What if this happens? What if that happens? What if I don't have enough money? 但是为什么很多基督徒我们对自己说，如果我去另外一个城市，我感觉上帝想我去哪里，但是我害怕。如果去哪里，我认识谁？那如果上帝想我去另外一个国家侍奉他，那我哪里没有家庭，我哪里没有认识任何人，那该怎么办呢？我们 a lot of Christians allow the what ifs to control us。很多基督徒我们让那个 what if 就是如果什么什么什么控制我们 ，and then we don't do anything。然后我们不做什么事，我们什么都不做。Or when it gets difficult, we give up。或者我们发生的事情比较困难，我们都放弃了。Why? Because when we give up, there's an immediate satisfaction。因为我们放弃，就比如如果我现在放弃很大的事，我会感觉很好，但是以后肯定后悔。But later on, most definitely, we'll have regrets. But you don't ever see any of the apostles doing that。但是你从来不会遇到或看到耶稣是这样子。And of course, Jesus never did that。然后耶稣从来没有这样的放弃。So why is this important? 那为什么这是重要吗？ Because God has His plans， 因为神有他的目标。And us Christians, we're not here on earth just to waste our time。然后我们记住，我们不是留在这个地球是为了浪费我们生活，浪费我们的时间，浪费我们的钱。There's a reason why we're here。我们都有原因。And there's a reason why God created you。然后有一个原因，为什么神创造你？ And it's not just so you can make money and then buy a bunch of stuff and then die fat。然后不是为了赚很多钱，所以你可以买很多东西，然后你很胖就去世了。我们说，英文我们说，you can say like in English, to get really fat and then die just means that you're very, very blessed, and then you die with all that blessing and not use it for the Lord. You know, there's a reason why God had you make all that money, or there's a reason why God sent you to this place or that place. 然后你知道吗？神给我们，如果神祝福你的工作，让你赚很多钱，你知道吗？不是为了你，一定可能是为了你，但是也可能是为了帮助别人。And so， 但是很多基督徒他们也没有想过这个问题，或者没有人告诉他们。You know, if God blesses your work, we should start asking, you know, why is God blessing my work? Why is God giving me all this money? 然后如果神开始祝福你的工作，我们要好好问自己，那为什么神开始祝福我的工作？ For example, like Abraham, 就比如亚伯拉罕。But God blessed Abraham that much, He gave that much stuff, because He knew that all that would go on to, basically from Abraham came the nation of Israel. And He needed that stuff, that money, for later on. It wasn't, I mean, yes, God He had favor in His sight, but that stuff wasn't just for him. Because God knew that He would have children, and then the children would have children, and all that stuff got passed on to them. 然后为什么神这么祝福亚伯拉罕？因为他知道以后以色列国家是从他的后代开始，所以他的东西对是为了他，但是也是为了很多以后的人，他的后代。You know, like for instance, I know you guys know you know the story about like how this church started. 然后我知道你们知道这个开始这个教会的故事。And one of the only reasons why we're able to do this is because of all the money that I saved up before. 然后为什么我们现在可以做这样子？是因为我之前在为我的爸爸的公司赚了很多钱。And so we're using that money right now. 然后现在我们还在用这个钱。And so like that money, like the reason why I know now that God had me make all that money wasn't so that I could, you know, buy a huge house and then buy a whole bunch of stuff and get really fat and then die. It was to start a church. 然后 神让我赚这么多钱，不是为了我可以以后买房子，买很多东西，吃了很多好吃的菜，然后变很胖就去世了，不是，是为了开教会。And so we always need to think to ourselves, why did God bring me here? Why did God open this door? And if it's opened, how do I not waste it? And if God's give me this or give me that, how do I not waste it? 那我们要好好开始问自己这个问题。那为什么神让我到这里？我到这里的时候，为什么神开这个门？那为什么神给我这么多东西？是为了什么？为什么神给我这个机会？而且神我怎么不浪费这个机会？Just because for instance, like AG, who's online right now. It took her 5 attempts to come to China, if I understand that correctly. AG 她现在在线上听我们的讲道，她就是第5次，她想过来中国，4次他们拒绝了她第5次通过了。So it took her 5 attempts to get here. So 她花了5次，5次，对，他们拒绝了她的签证。然后每一次是不同的问题 and every single time it was a different reason. But now she's here. Today she encountered more problems. 但是她到现在在她在好像白云隔离。No, is it 珠海？我不管哪里，但是她还在隔离。She has to be quarantined for 3 weeks. 因为她必须隔离3周。And so right now she's in quarantine. And today she received some bad news. 然后她3周也要隔离，但是今天她是他的中介跟他说很多坏事 and a lot of it has to do with her company that she worked for previously in China. 就是他之前在天河为一个英文的机构工作，但是这个机构因为他们没有告诉广州的政府他们怎么赚钱，他现在可能遇到很大的问题，因为现在这个机构已经关闭了，但是中国的广州的政府在问他为什么你换公司几次，而且为什么你这2年在这个工作的地方工作，但是他们说你什么都没有赚钱，所以现在有问题，因为这个公司不想广州的政府知道他在这里工作，所以他们说他在广州住，但是他在美国上班，所以他的赚钱是在美国，但是其实他赚钱在中国，明白吗？所以就是为了不要交给税费。Yeah, 税费。So they did this. But right now, this morning, her agent's like, we have a big problem. 然后他今天早上他的中介说我们现在遇到很大的问题 ，and now she doesn't know if they might say you have to go back to China or go back to America, or they might say she has to pay a big fine. 她现在不知道，他们可能说你要回去美国，因为这是犯罪，或者他们可能说给她很大的罚款，所以她现在不知道。But you know what? It wasn't really it was her problem, but not really, because it was the company's issue. Because it's the company that was paying the taxes. She was just the employee, but she should have asked. So it's kind of her problem, but out of her control. 所以他因为这个问题是哪里的公司，还有我认识他的老板，所以我知道他们的做法，因为他之前也跟我说了，因为我知道他们在做什么，就是为什么我辞职了，是因为我不同意他们做，但是不管这个问题，所以他现在的问题，之前他不太知道是个问题，但是现在成为很大的问题，所以他今天早上在问我应该做什么，该怎么办呢？ So this morning she was asking me, because the problem was before maybe it's a small problem, but now it's become a huge problem. And now she doesn't know if she said, well, I might have to leave China, or I might have to pay a really big fine. I don't have any money. 然后她说我可能要离开中国，或者要发很大的款，但是我现在没有钱。所以她在问我该怎么办呢？ And so right now she is faced with something very difficult. And the easiest thing would be, well, I'm just going to go back home. 但是最容易的是放弃说我要回去。But she just got here, 但是她刚刚到这里。But what will be more difficult is what happens if there is a big fine. Then that means that she's going to have to work really hard to pay that off. 但是你知道吗？更困难是什么？ 如果丈夫给她很大的发光，那她要很努力在这里工作，为了把这个钱交给丈夫。So it would be easier to go home. But what if God brought her here for a reason, which I believe God had her rejected 4 times, and the 5th time she's here. So there's a reason why she's here. 所以此次他们拒绝了她在美国拒绝了她的签证，但是第5次通过了。那这个告诉我们，上帝生她过来这里。But now she encountered another problem. 但是她现在遇到很大的问题。And she can choose to go home, or she can choose to stay. 但是她可能选择回去。或者留在这里。If she stays here, it's going to be more difficult. 但是如果她留在这里，那可能是更困难。And that's kind of like what Paul's doing. 然后就是保罗的情况一样的，差不多。Paul could choose to quit and leave and go home, or he could choose to stay. 保罗也可能选择离开。He could say, well, why do I have to, just for preaching the gospel, why do I have to do this? Because Paul was extremely smart. And if he became a Pharisee, which he was in the process of doing, he would have made a lot of money. 因为保罗是特别聪明。他也准备成为法利赛人，然后如果他成为法利赛人，他可以赚好多钱。But he left that， 但是他离开。Why? Because Jesus encountered him. Jesus said, "I have a lot of work for you to do." 然后他遇到耶稣，耶稣告诉他，我有很多工作要给你做。Number 3， 第3个。Number 2， not pressuring on when it gets difficult。第3个，在困难的时候没有继续。Number 3。Not standing our ground, but running from our problems. 没有站在我们的立场上，而是逃避我们的问题。Verse 2, second clause. 第2节第2个从句。We were bold in our God to speak unto the gospel with much contention. That means that they had a lot of difficulty doing so. 然而还是靠我们的神，放开胆量，在大的征战中把神的福音传给你们。这意思是他们遇到好多困难的问题 ，but they still press on。但是他们还继续，他们还坚持。Okay, so let's look at the next slide. 我们看到下个页。So first off, So first off, there's Elon Musk. 所以你看到右边有一个美国的 Elon Musk， 对吧 ？And so what I put up was I put up one of his quotes. 我把就是他自己的句话，他说 ，Where did I put this? Hold on. 就是阿隆马克思 and he says Elon Musk did not become the richest man in the world overnight. 你知道吗？他现在是我们的地球最有钱的人，然后这不是一天。And he wasn't given it, 然后没有人给他这个钱。He started, if you guys know his story, him and his brother, during the universities, was when they started their company. 他和他的哥哥他们在大学的时候就开始他们的公司。And they would stay up, they would only get like maybe 3-4 hours sleep a night. 然后他们每天晚上可能上4个小时睡觉。And other than that, they would just be doing their business. 然后他们老是在做他们的工作。And they didn't even have an apartment. They stayed in the dormitory and they lived together. 然后他们住在一样的dormitory is what? It's dormitory 宿舍一起住，没有在外面住。And what he says here, he says, no, I don't ever give up. I have to be dead or completely incapacitated in order to give up. 他说我从来不会放弃。他说我要去世了。或者incapacity 是你不能走路，也什么都不能做。然后他说他的意思是我不管他遇到什么问题，我从来没有不会放弃。And you know what, this guy, many people told him you can't do what you want to do. 很多人告诉他你的目标不行，当然不行，你不可以，你不能，你没有这么厉害什么的。And many people told him this over and over and over. But he still pressed on. 但是很多人告诉他你什么都不会，你没有这样的厉害的能力，但是他还会做。He didn't give up. 他从来没有放弃。That's kind of like the attitude of Paul here. 就是跟保罗一样的。What are you saying? How you might say, but how are you comparing Elon Musk to Paul, the Apostle Paul? 然后你说为什么你把 Elon Musk 然后呢比保罗，然后说他们是一样的努力。Well, Elon Musk, his company is running right now. The Tesla? No, not Tesla. The other one, the SpaceX. Actually, and Tesla. he used the rest of his money. He bought all of his money and put all of his money into these last two companies. 然后他把所有的钱放在这两个公司。And there's one point when he says, if this rocket doesn't take off, then we're going to have to shut the whole thing down because we just don't have any more. 然后他说，如果这个 rocket 是什么？怎么说？就是
火箭。
如果他说，如果我们没有进步，我们都要关闭了，因为他说现在没有钱。And he used all his money, he used everything, and he got to the very end of basically the very end of what he was before he had to quit. And this is the last rocket, and it was successful. And then because it was successful, he ended up getting more grants. 然后他说了，如果我们现在不，因为他们准备做最后的 how to say 火箭。他说，如果这个没有通过，如果没有工程的话，那我们要关闭这个公司。但是你知道吗？通过了，然后以后美国的政府还有很多别的公司投资很多钱，所以他们可以继续。But he used everything, man. 但是他花了所有的他自己的钱 ，and he borrowed a bunch of money from a lot of people. 然后他借很多钱从别的公司来的 ，and he used it all. 然后他就差不多花完了。And he said there was one point in his life when he would only sleep 2 hours a night because he'd be working 22 hours a day. 然后他说在他生活很短的时间，他每天只有睡觉2个小时，然后每天他22个小时在上班。And he said that really started affecting his health. 然后影响他的脑子还有他的心脏。And he said he didn't give up because he knew what he had to do. 但是他说他不管这事，他不让这个问题影响他的目标。And that's kind of exactly what Paul did. 然后就是跟保罗一样的。For example, Paul in 2 Corinthians 11:24 says, 在哥林多后书1章24节说 Of the Jews, 5 times received I 40 stripes, save one. The reason why they'd stop at 40 stripes means 40 lashes is because if it went over that, there's a good chance you could die. 然后他说，被犹太人的鞭打5次，每一次40减去以下，因为如果他们继续的话，他可能去世了。Thrice was I beaten with rods, once was I stoned, thrice was I shipwrecked. A night and a day I have been out in the deep. That means he was 24 hours or more out at the ocean. In the ocean. 被关打了3次，被使徒打了1次，远着船坏3次，一周一夜深海里。Enduring often perils of waters, and perils of robbers, and perils by my own countrymen, and perils by the heathen, and perils in the cities, and perils in the wilderness, and perils in the sea, and perils among false brethren. 又屡次生晕律，造任何的危险，盗贼的危险，同族的危险，外邦人的危险，城里的危险，旷野的危险，海中的危险。炸地上的危险 in wilderness and in painfulness, in watchings often, in hunger and thirst, in fastings often, in cold and in nakedness, 受劳碌，受困难，多次不得睡，又饥又渴，都吃了不得食，又受寒冷的刺湿露体，而赤身露体。Okay, so Paul's was worse than Alamas. 所以保罗比 Alamas 更恐怖的。But the point is, or 比较恐怖的 the point is that both of these men didn't give up. And now we look at the results. 然后但是他们关于点是哪里？是他们都不他们这2个人不放弃了。然后现在 Alamas is the richest man in the world. 他现在是我们地球的最有钱的人。And Paul, pretty much every single church around the world is all benefiting and learning from what he taught. 然后所有的教会在这个世界上，所有的教会都看到他的内容，都看到他的教训，都学了很多，帮助我们好多。And so but what happens if Paul says, okay, enough of this, after he's almost stoned to death? He says, I said, I'm done with this Christian stuff. 但是如果保罗说他们把石头准备打死他，他说 OK， 我放弃了，我回家去。Or what if Alamas says, okay, I ran out of money, that's enough. I want to use the last of my bit of my money to buy a house and get married. 然后如果 Alamas 说 我现在没有那么多钱，我要把我最后钱买房子，然后娶个老婆。Then he wouldn't be where he is right now, and Paul wouldn't have written any of these epistles. 然后保罗不学这么多的这么多的书，而且 Elon Musk 不是我们世上最有钱的人。If they gave up， 如果他们放弃了。So now the question is， 所以现在的问题是什么 ？What is God directing you to do？ 上帝现在领导你做什么 ？What is Jesus calling you to do？ 然后耶稣给你什么目标 ？And are you going to give up？ 然后呢，如果你遇到困难的时候，你要放弃吗 ？Are you going to press on？ 或者你要坚持吗 ？Let's stop here. 我们在这里结束。We'll continue after 下个继续。Heavenly Father, we thank you for today. 天父，我们感谢你今天晚上的聚会。Let's pray for your blessing upon people here and online. 然后主要为这里的人还有线上的人祷告祝福他们。And Lord, help us just to strengthen us with your word. 然后继续用你的话语加强给能力给我们。And Lord, just help us because I know sometimes us Christians we really need your comfort. 然后主耶稣，有时候我们就是特别需要你的安慰 ，especially when we encounter difficulties. So help us not to give up. Help us not to quit. 然后主要帮我们不要放弃，不要说就是我太累了，我太困了，我不要继续走。When we encounter these, Lord, comfort us, help us, and guide us. 然后我们遇到这困难的事，安慰我们，帮助我们，鼓励我们。我奉你耶稣基督的名求，阿门。
Amen.
真的。